Hello, I'm Laurel Nicholson. I am the founder of the Death and Resurrection Doula community on Convene Communities, and I have a special guest today, a good friend of mine and a colleague, Matthew Currin, who is the CEO and founder of Convene Communities, where I train Christian end-of-life doulas.
That's
So,
right.
Matt, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you for joining me
yeah,
today
thank
on my
you very much.
podcast.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I want to give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah. So, well, like Laurel said, I'm Matthew Curran. I'm the creator and founder of Convene, the platform that she has her training on. A couple other interesting notes about me. I'm a retired Marine Corps pilot, flew helicopters in the Marine Corps, and then led a lot of the initial missions in 2001, 2002 for our country in Afghanistan. So I have those deployments under my belt. Was retired, got medically retired out of the Marine Corps and flew air medical. So I flew 659 patient flights as an air medical helicopter pilot, something I loved, really loved that. And, you're making a difference in people's lives. And then the other thing was I left that job and I became the helicopter pilot and for Team Penske NASCAR in Indy. And then I also fly two jets for Team Penske NASCAR in Indy and Penske Corp, Penske Automotive Group, and all that. So yeah, that's my side gig, but my true passion and my true love is convene communities. That's what I love most about it, everything that I do.
Well, I tell you, and I tell my friends, Matt's my cool friend because of all of the really awesome things you do. I have not known a lot of pilots in my life. My uncle was a pilot for Delta, but other than that, I've not really known anyone that has that level of expertise and training for
Yeah,
flying. So
yeah, lots of stories, lots of flying, lots of stories. So yeah,
yeah.
love it. And I have a wife of over 30 years and three kids. So 28, 26, and 22 now. So two boy and two girls.
You have a beautiful family and smart kids too. The
Yeah,
things you tell me that they do, they're just as smart.
yeah. Got it from their mom, not me.
Wow. Well, and our friendship, Matt, started because of Convene Communities, and
Absolutely.
we're going to dive into that a little bit. And it's part of your story and part of my story. But first, I want to just repeat something you've said to me a lot, and it sticks. And it's the phrase, "Everyone has a story."
Yeah.
So if you dive into that a little bit more about what
Yeah.
you mean.
Yeah, everyone has a story. So, not to dive too deep into it, but Convene is here because of a story, and it's not the greatest story in the world. I lost a good friend of mine in a helicopter crash on July 9th of 2001. And it was a story that just changed my life. The mishap, the total time of the crash took 12 seconds, they estimate. And so 12 seconds changed everything in my life, and how I think, how I do things. And from that, unfortunately, that loss became what is now Convene Communities. It's that we all have a story and we all have something to share. And it's important that we
Mm,
share our stories with others. I think God put us here to do that. I think God put us here to lift others up. And if you can take the struggles that you've gone through, but not just the struggles, even the positive things that you've gone through, and you can tell your stories and make a difference in people's lives, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to lift people up and let people know that they're not walking alone. You hear me say it all the time. I'll do my fingers like that and I'll say, we think we're walking alone, but we're not walking alone. You think you're the only one in the world that's gone through this hard time or this problem. You're not the only one. And so you have to wake up and realize, and by creating collaborative communities, and hearing other stories, you realize, oh wow, I'm not the only one who's gone through that.
mm.
So, it might just be leaning on somebody and saying, hey, you've gone through what I've gone through. How did you make it through? And really learning from that. And that's really what Convene Community is all about. It's about collaborating and coming together, sharing our stories and lifting each other up.
So another motto you say, real life, real people, real experiences. So
Yeah.
this is part of the Convene vision. This is the
Yeah.
Convene vision.
Yeah.
So you want to share a little bit more about the vision for Convene Communities that's, sprung forth out of your friend Clark's death.
Yeah. So real life, real people, real experiences is, we're all living this real life each and every day. And I think if we look in the mirror or we look across the table at our friends, life's not always easy. Life's pretty hard. Um, and so what people do is they allow these hard times, these hard experiences in life to just beat them down. And they don't, get back up and get back up and get back up. And so maybe that's a gift that I have. It's like I can have a horrible day today, but I'm going to get back up tomorrow and it's going to be a new day. And so, the hardest time of my life was in losing Clark. He was somebody that I flew 90% of the flights that I would go out on. He was my combat crew chief. He was always there. And this particular night, he went in the other helicopter to let a new guy to the squadron fly with me. And they made a 12-second human error inside of that helicopter. And unfortunately, from that, three crew chiefs died. The two pilots survived, and he was one of them that died. The
Mm.
problem was, and I found out about a day and a half later, is that what caused that mishap had happened in another squadron a year and a half prior, but they kept it a secret, Laurel. They didn't tell what caused that mishap, and it was a 2-minute fix. It was literally unscrew one bolt and screw in another bolt and turn something into a switch that was called as from a single toggle switch to a dual toggle switch would have made it impossible to turn this cockpit light on, and everybody focused on turning the light off and nobody focused on flying the helicopter, and they flew it right, a perfectly good helicopter flew it right in the water. So over time, I really that stuck with me, and I made it my mission to go out and really share that story. So, and I was specifically thinking aviation. I don't want, more aviation crashes. I don't want human error to happen. But I realized over time, I was at Duke University speaking one time, and everybody wanted to talk to me afterwards, not about time critical decision making and working in a high risk environment. They wanted to talk to me about their marriage and their relationship and parenting, these topics that were near and dear to my heart. They would take my story and they would tie it to their real life. And I was like, there's something here. It's that we're not walking alone. We're walking with each other. We can lean on each other. And we go through, people go through the same things over and over and over. So what better place to do that than communities, with like-minded people. And so that's the real life, real people, real experiences. That is bringing people's real life, real experiences um, together. We're all real people. That's really what we're doing. We're trying to make it day by day. We're trying to do the best that we can. But the ultimate goal is, can you lift somebody up? Can you let them know that, yeah, you might be down today, but you don't have to be
Mm.
down tomorrow. If we all work together and all come together, if we all convene, we can do great things and make a difference.
Wow. Well, your experience with the loss of your friend, your work as an air medical pilot prepared you when we met through a Zoom meeting
Yeah.
that was a, business networking meeting. And I had just not been hired at a job that I was really surprised because I thought I was a shoe in. And I said, well, I in my mind, I knew I wanted to build a training program for end of life doulas. I was certified as an end of life doula, and I was not really sure where to get started, but not getting that job, which would have been full time. I decided to join this networking group,
Yeah.
which I'd sort of been on the fence about because I'm like, if I get the job, I won't be able to go to all the meetings. Is it really worth the cost?
Yeah.
But I wanted to network about my doula training. I was moved to a new city and wanted to network about my services and my dream for a training program. So anyway, you popped on this Zoom call. Joined the networking group because I didn't have a job, and you were the presenter that day. And you shared about Convene Communities, and you shared some examples of the communities that had already formed. And one, stuck with me about teenagers.
Yeah.
And I had 2 teenagers at the time. Mine are older now, a little bit older now, but, I was like, "Wow," I really believe in that, and I could see how impactful that would be. Well, when it came around that I had, 2 minutes to share about what I did, you heard what I said and your, experience in the Marine Corps and your time with the patient flights, something resonated with
Yeah.
you in my life as an end of life doula because you've seen a lot of death.
Yeah.
You've seen a
I
lot.
have.
It's
Yeah.
hit you personally, it's hit you professionally. And you said, wow, that's someone I want to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bet you'd never heard of an end of life
I had
doula.
not. I had not. Yeah, no, I sent you a message through the meeting link, and I said, "Can we link up?" And my first question was like, "Well, what is a death and resurrection doula?" You know, and I think
Yeah.
you probably get that a lot where you have to explain what it is. And so you explained it to me, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense." Yeah. Unfortunately, I have seen a lot of death, both in the military, but mostly out as an air medical pilot. You think you're landing on a road somewhere. Somebody leaves their house early in the day and has a car accident, and you're landing on the road, picking them up and taking them to a trauma center. And sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't make it. And so I did 650 patient flights, and unfortunately, a lot of those ended successful, but a whole lot of those ended unsuccessful. And
Mm.
so I saw it, and you start to look at it in a different way, a different light. I tend to say, and not to be like in a cynical view, but I do believe there's two certainties in life: you're going to be born, and you're going to die. And what you do in between is up to you. We have a choice. We have a choice each and every day of what we do, how we treat people, the things that we do. And so, let's make it the most impactful thing that we can possibly, do each and every day. And so it intrigued me what you did, and so I
Mm.
was like, well, this is something that I think could be very beneficial. It's a service. It's a service that is giving and a loving service that you do. And yeah, so we talked, and yeah, we've been good friends ever since. And
Yes, we
yeah,
have been.
yeah,
And your experience with losing Clark, really resonated with my vision. I have a theology degree and continue to study theology because I get, real pleasure from reading. And but one of the theologians I've done some reading in, believes that you know death is Christ's pathway into the world.
mhm,
And so it really kind of made sense to me that Convene was a great platform to put a ministry such as tending to the dying,
mhm,
to put that in there because, God doesn't waste death, right? God uses death. Ultimately to bring his kingdom, and that's
yeah,
we don't think of it that way, at all. And death is an enemy. The scriptures declare it, but because God has given us salvation in Jesus Christ, he also uses death powerfully. He's redeemed us through Jesus Christ from, the ultimate, um, not having eternal life. And so it all just really came together for me as God is doing something here. And as our friendship has grown over 3 years, I think we can both attest to, wow, God really is doing something. And
yeah,
my vision was pretty small when I met you, and you've
yeah,
helped me expand that dramatically. But, we laugh about this. I'm like, well, I'm going to have 2 modules, a
yeah,
theological module and a practitioner module. And
yeah,
and, I have 3 modules, and I have a collaboration group, and I just launched a volunteer program,
yeah,
for those who don't wanna take the full, professional track. But what's one thing I love about Convene is there are so many components to it that your vision can be as big as you want it to be. You're never limited from the amount of creativity that you can have. And I never really thought about it being a content creator, but that's essentially what I become, not in the sense of someone, maybe on TikTok, but in a different way. I mean, I have, when I struggle through hard days maybe, and I'm like, wow, well, what is, is are things on time? I feel like maybe, you know I should have more people training with me by now. I have to really trust the Lord in stepping out in an endeavor of, that something that doesn't exist. I have
yeah,
created something that at this point has not existed, which is a Christian end of life doula training program in the midst of many crises: an elder care crisis, a hospice crisis, a faith crisis around the world. So I have become a content creator,
yeah,
and Convene is a fantastic platform for someone like me and for my doula, so they can learn from me by taking my modules and become their own creators for branding their own ministry focused on caregiving at the end of life. but bringing in their life experience to that. And here
Yep.
we are, we're talking about everyone has a story,
Everyone has a
you know,
story. Yeah.
real life, real people, real experiences. Well, instead of an algorithm based, TikTok or Instagram model, we're a real community, and
Yeah.
we are
Absolutely.
gravitating towards one goal inside of my community. But I'm not just the leader of that goal. We all come in together, and we put in the effort and the creativity, and we're, like I said, we're building something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, I'll build on that and talk about that is because I think a lot of people underestimate the power of their story and the power of what they want to accomplish. And so I've had a lot of people, you being one of them, come to me and say, "Hey, I have this. Here's my story. I have this idea. I want to create it." Um, and they think this small. You like we joke about it, but you wanted to create, 2 courses, 2 modules. And that was it. You were ready to stop at that. And I'm like, "No, whoa, 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 no. You think bigger, and you had the mindset of creating that impact. You didn't have the roadmap to get you to be able to create that impact. And everybody needs to understand this. Convene is just a platform. That's all it is. You are the death and resurrection doula. You are not, and it just so happens to be housed inside of this platform called Convene. It's just the platform, but it's you. It's you and your story and your mission and what you're creating with these other amazing women and men. And you know, you're making a true impact, but you have to think bigger than what you possibly could ever dream.
Mm.
That's sometimes very overwhelming for people. It was a little overwhelming for you to begin with, but here's what it is. You have staying power. You have a belief in yourself, and you have a belief in your mission of what you want to accomplish. And it's about believing. I've been at Convene since 2015. We're getting ready to launch version 3.0. So it doesn't happen overnight. You have to continue to strive. You have to continue to believe in yourself and your mission, and it'll happen. And it is growing. So yeah, that's just really it. It's
Right.
it's it's you have to believe. You have to believe in your story, and not walk away from your story, and not walk away from something that you know is really good. Even though there's going to be good days, even though there's going to be days that you're frustrated because maybe the people are not signing up at the rate that you want them to. But if you build the foundation, and again, I tell you this all the time, and I've been on you a lot recently about this, is okay, you've built the foundation. You've built module 1, 2, and 3. You built the volunteer course. You've done all that. You have doulas and you've created the franchise model. Now go out and grow the franchise. You got to bring the customers into McDonald's, so to speak, right? So now, and so it's sometimes you've worked so hard on this communities, on your training, but really, what's bigger than that is your community that you're building. That's so much bigger than your training. Your training is just the force that's going to allow you to grow. And
That's
that's
right.
what's beautiful and special because you're going to be able to support the client, right? And that's the ultimate end game is how
Right.
can you and your doula support that client at the end and the families that need your services.
That's absolutely right. When I trained to be an end-of-life doula, that was in 2019, the fall of 2019, right before COVID started. And I did my training. It took me 3 months, I think, and I followed all the instructions. I made my business cards. I formed an LLC. Put press release in the local paper and waited. I built a website. I mean, did it all, right? And I waited and waited and waited. I didn't have a client for a year. And I remember, and part of that was COVID. At that point, I think the word or the phrase end of life doula was way less familiar than it
Yeah.
has become now. You couldn't be face to face with people. The woman who trained me sent out a post, become a remote doula,
Yeah.
and so, marketed that, and nothing was going. Nothing was going. And so I just sort of put it aside and said, well, I did want that theology degree. So I'm going to go after the theology degree. This is a good time to do it. And sure enough, soon after I entered into my first semester of seminary, I got a phone call on that website that I built.
Yeah.
And somebody said, we're looking for a Christian to
Yeah.
be an end of life doula.
Yeah.
And just, you know, amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And everything I had worked for came together perfectly.
Yeah.
And I said, "Wow, this really works." And, the feedback from her family and her community was that, "I don't know how we would have done this
Yeah.
without you." And
Right.
it is true because extra hands are needed when someone is facing the
Yeah.
end of their life. And so, my bigger vision is you're mentioning is, not just training, but it's to connect
Yeah.
people who need the help with the doulas who are trained so well through my program. My
Yeah.
program is fantastic. I have poured my heart into it and for 3 years and fine tuned and received feedback from my doulas and just really created something
Yeah.
exceptional. And with the help of so many great contributors, it is really just a really fine training program. And but what do you do if you're a doula? You take a few modules and you learn how to set up your business. Well, that's what I did. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just the groundwork wasn't laid for me. We're doing something new, and so Convene and all the components within your your platform, Matt, allow me to think bigger, which is to have a Christian end of life doula community that
Yeah.
is focused on caregiving in Christ, hope
Absolutely.
of the resurrection, connecting people who are seeking biblical truth, end of life care grounded in biblical truth with those who are trained well,
Yeah.
and even outside of that, church leaders, come in and learn, on what should a church do to prepare for these impending crises.
Yeah.
How can we better support our church communities? What about education? All of this can be done inside of Convene communities, support groups, meal trains, just like you would find on Caring Bridge or I Am Not Alone Care, real a caregiver support hub run by, end of life doulas. And
Yeah.
they're leveraging the platform to run their own community. So I'm, up at the top as the leader, developing the death and resurrection doula training program and community. And then those who are certified, they start their own communities
Yeah.
with their clients and their neighborhoods and lead uh, their own communities, and they can create their own content, based on their life experience mixed with,
Yeah.
the what they've learned through the training program. So really, what I think I said to you when we were first getting to know each other, and the experience that we had and our goals and what we could offer one another is that I said, if you can't help me do this, I don't know who can.
Well, the beautiful thing that you're creating is you've done it. You've created the template. You've created something that works. And but you said it in the other program that you're a part of is you finished your training in that other program and you walked away and you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? Well, you're not leaving your clients, the people that have gone through your training program, your doulas, you're not leaving them alone. You're giving them the same tools that you use, the same avenue that they trained in, the same, capabilities that you have. You're giving that to them. It's part of your training program. And then you're creating a community. You're creating a thing where I'm from North Carolina, you're from Virginia, and if I need a doula in North Carolina, you can say, well, "Oh, I have a doula in North Carolina, and here she is, or here he is." Go look at this group. So it's truly something amazing, and no other platform does that. It gives you the opportunity to grow such a meaningful community. You might can grow a community with a little dashboard, a little communication going on, but not truly when you're thriving together.
That's
You're collaborating together in the collaboration group. You're helping each other grow, by sharing each other's clients if you're not in that same space or not in that same area. So it's cool. It's
right.
really good, and it's you have some great things going on with your one the podcast here, your international cafe, and it's providing support in a bigger way than
It
just being
is.
a doula. And that's what it's all about. That's why we're here on this earth is our
Right.
job is to lift each other up. And so yeah, and again, when you're entering that end of life phase or your family's entering that end of life phase, I mean, nobody enjoys that.
No.
But if you can
No.
have somebody help you through that process, all the better, and that's what you're creating, and it's wonderful.
Well, Clark's death and then, the deaths that you did see on your patient flights, none of those were planned, right? No one was prepared. So you've seen the hardship. I mean,
Yeah.
death is hard anyway, and an unexpected death brings unanticipated grief
Yeah.
with it that can be mind blowing. Something as simple as I don't even know how to get in their phone. That just is undoing on a different level, and even thinking about what kind of care you want at the end of your life. An accident happens, and your families are forced into those decisions, and they don't know what the
Oh, yeah.
person really wanted. So these become just unimaginable burdens. And so we hope through the efforts of the doulas that I train that we can lift that burden for many. But the practical side of it is great, and that's what I was thought was great about secular doula training program. But faith is
Yeah.
really
Absolutely.
what's most important, because even when things do go wrong, we can step back and say, well, God has made a way in Jesus Christ. So we are certain he's going to make a way through
Yeah.
all of this.
Absolutely.
And so, when I trained to be an end of life doula through another program, and granted that was 6 years ago, so probably things have changed there, but, I logged on, took a couple modules, no discussion board, no way to connect to the program developer. Once I was certified, I was given a link to go join a Facebook group where I could, talk to other doulas certified in that program, but nothing of the magnitude for
Yeah.
collaboration that we have on Convene Communities. I mean, I see the doulas coming together and forming friendships
That's right.
offline too, but they're
Yeah.
meeting through all of the easy collaborative features. And so if we see that happening in the training, we're going to see that happen through,
Absolutely.
community support for families and their
Yeah.
loved ones. Well, let's shift gears here for a little bit, Matt, because I think we've done a
Yeah.
great job, talking about the potential,
Yeah.
and let's put it into real life.
Real life
We're,
practical
we're
application.
yeah, let's apply it to real life.
Yeah.
So, you've got a new chapter in your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. So, I just wrote a book, Laurel. It's going to be released here real soon, and um, I literally, a friend of mine proofread it for me. He called me with one suggestion. I made that change. He read the change. He said, "Yeah, that's wonderful." He said, "I think we're done," and we slapped the table on it. Yep, we're good. We're done. And then 2 days later, I go to the doctor and I get told that I have cancer. So a lot of what my life story and what it is you have ups, you have downs, you fall down, you get knocked down, you get back up, you keep going. But I literally wrote the end of that book is that I made it. I made it through all these ups and downs. I
Mhm.
made it through all these lefts and rights, of getting knocked down to the canvas if I was a boxer. I made it. And now Convene 3.0 is launching. I'm here. And then I got reminded that, no, you're not here yet. And I always
Mm,
pray, I pray this all the time. I pray, God, use me for your will. And you and I have joked about this in the last couple of weeks. God, use me for your will. And I think God's called my bluff. He said, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want me to use you or, my will?" And I'm like, "Yes, God, use me for your will." And so when you hear that word, and see it that you have cancer, man, I'm 53. I'm pretty healthy. I look pretty healthy, right? I'm pretty healthy. I feel pretty
me
good.
too.
And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting here. You wouldn't know if we said it earlier. You wouldn't know I have cancer. But yeah, I have
Mhm.
cancer now, and hopefully it's going to be I have surgery coming up here in a few days, and hopefully they're going to get it all out, and I'm going to be good to go, and we're going to keep marching. But man, what can I use this chapter for? What kind of groups can I create and support can I create
Mm,
for others who have walked through that cancer like I'm walking through it right now? There's an opportunity here, and God never wastes a chapter. I wrote that in the epilogue of the book. Is God never wastes a chapter. Well, this is a new chapter, you
mhm,
know? And, so yeah, we're gonna start the new chapter and we're gonna make it happen. But that's what Convene's all about. That's what the platform is all about. That's what your community is all about. And, it's kind of funny because a year ago, 2 years ago, we were trying to show your doulas what how the Convene communities could work is inside of your personal, because you have a personal group, because you are a doula. you have a personal group inside of your community. And so I'm one of your clients inside inside of your community. Well, how ironic is that? That I
We didn't have to form a new group.
and there's a group and yeah, we put some stuff in there, but guess what? Now it's a real group.
Yeah, it's a real
Now we're
group.
going to go fill the stuff out for real, not just putting it in there to show as an example because there's little things that now that I sit back and, knock on wood, everything turns out okay. But what if it doesn't? I have a wife and kids that I have to make sure are taken care of. I need to, make sure that everything's in order, whether that be now or whether that be 30 years from now. Let's pray it's 30 years from now.
Mhm.
What if it's not? I'm not prepared. And that's what, the group's supposed to be about. That's what we told everybody we were going to start and we're going to do it. But now it's a great place to do it. I can put my documents in there that my family needs. We can put some sensitive topics and discussion boards if we need to in there. It's a way in your community with you guiding us to get our directives in place, to get our other documents in place. And then God, and you know what? I can say this because I have cancer. Yeah, and it may go down a bad path. I don't think it will, but it could. But I could also easily go get in my car and have a helicopter land on the highway and pick me up. And I did that a lot. I
Mm,
landed a lot where people left their house thinking that life was okay. And by the end of the day, it was not
mm,
okay. And I don't, want that to happen to my family. So it's a different way of thinking that yeah, we were doing it kind of as a shell, but now it's real,
yeah.
it's truly real. It's there, and you don't ever expect it. You don't ever expect I remember, I was doing what I was doing. I had to get a biopsy and I told my wife I was getting this biopsy and she's like, "Oh God, why are you doing that? You don't need that." And then when I found out I was riding down the road the day after Thanksgiving when the results came in and I walked in and I looked at her and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I looked at her and said, "I have cancer." Wow. That those words sting. Those
Mm,
words sting. When you open it up and you read down it and then all of a sudden it says cancer, cancer, cancer. It's like, wow, it's for
yeah,
real. It's real.
it's
You
real.
know?
Well, we know at this point you have a good prognosis,
Yeah.
and but that doesn't mean it's not a lot of weight on you. I mean, we've been talking every couple days because we're friends, but
Yeah.
we're also talking about the reality that you have received a cancer
Yeah.
diagnosis and the uncertainties that come with that. And, so your family needs support. You need support. So
Yeah.
we need support even if we're not terminal, but we have, a diagnosis that's uncertain because it's important not just to get your things in order but to have support.
Yeah.
And you've said to me, Matt, that you've been checking out some support groups here and there,
Yeah.
and the just the I mean, I'm not sure exactly which word you used, but just the encouragement
Yeah.
you're finding from other people who have been or are in a similar position to you. And
Yeah.
there's some men who have, gotten better through treatment, and they're coming back and saying, "Hey, I've been there with
Yeah.
you." And or their wives come in and say, "Hey, my husband's going through this. What might I expect? How can I be a good caregiver to him?" It makes a difference. We are not alone, as you said from the very beginning. We're not going through these things alone. And what's so wonderful about technology is that we can connect with people far away
Yeah.
and stay in touch and offer support and weather the storms of life with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's, the calling on me now is that I need to create this category, create this, community and create these support networks. And I think it just, you can do it obviously in Facebook, you can do it in other places, but now this is dedicated to that topic, without the noise, you're going to it and you're in there for a reason. And there's
Mm,
a lot more too what Convene does, the structure, discussion boards, the blogs, the just the document management. I said to you earlier that, one of the most meaningful posts that I've seen is like when the wives go in there and they say, my husband has this cancer. What can I do for him after the surgery? And not only do you get the practical things, the things you need to buy, the material things you need to buy, but you also get the other side of it, the support and all that. But so you could create a document. And so when somebody answers that question, just man, send that document to them and connect with them in that way.
Mm,
I just think there's so much that that my eyes have been open to that can come from this, the goodness that can come from this. And yeah, I've been building this thing for 10, 12 years, and now it's taken on a whole new meaning.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and there's nothing off the table. There's so many people that need support in so many different
Mm.
ways. And
So many different
yeah,
ways.
it's that we've talked all about it and everything, but people are not walking alone. Again, back to we all have a story. You're not walking alone. So that's what this whole platform is about, is to come together.
Yeah.
You know?
I think social media can fool us a bit to think that everybody's life is really great except
Yeah.
for yours.
Yeah. Oh, for
um,
sure.
in my training program, I have an experience, which in the first module, the theological module, which is to write your story. And so there's some, structure to that. And I uh, share my story as a mechanism for part of that structure. But I do it in two parts. I give like, this is what my story would look like on Facebook, you know, track
Yeah.
state star,
Yeah.
straight A's, got into the first college of my choice, whatever.
Yeah.
Lovely Christian family, great, safe community. But unless you really knew me, you wouldn't know that I struggled with anorexia and bulimia for 20
Yeah.
years and that my marriage was a mess and that, this and this and this.
Yeah.
So it's easy to become, downcast because you think, well, nobody else knows what it's like. And I feel that way about, not health related things, but some other things in my life. And I know we all do. And so
Yeah. Everybody.
being with people, co-suffering, which is really something we understand differently when we're Christians is, we suffer as Christians
Yeah.
in a spiritual way as much as a physical way, and just we come to know what the cross means in our lives,
Yeah.
and we can co-suffer with one another, and so this community is special with that, and your platform, which is not
Yeah.
for Christians only, right? It's for
Yeah.
everybody, but it does really bring something new to the table
Yeah.
for the
Well,
Christian
so
faith.
Laurel, I think a lot of people live this life where woe is me. I'm having, oh my gosh, it's not good. It's not good. But nobody ever promised you that life was going to be easy. And
No.
the reality of it is you may think it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I don't care. I have cancer, but I mean, I have a wonderful wife. I have an amazing family. I have a God that loves me.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Just don't
Mm.
let yourself get down. Pick yourself up and keep going. Keep going. And, that's the ultimate goal for me, is to not let people think that, oh, my life is just, it's over. It's done. So bad. No, it's not that bad. We're
No.
here. We're talking. We're breathing. We're loving each other. We're lifting each other up. So let's go. Let's go. You make it happen. You make the difference in your life. You can choose to go down a sad path and a bad path. Or you can choose to go down a positive path. That's my choice. It's like Denzel Washington says, always fall forward, never fall backwards.
Mm.
I choose not to fall backwards. I never fall backwards. Doesn't matter. Fall forward. Fall forward. And guess what? When you think things are perfect, guess what? There might be a new chapter tomorrow. And that's
There might
that's
be a new
where
chapter
we're at,
tomorrow.
you know?
Yep.
So
Yep.
now you just got to close this chapter up and keep moving.
Well, I appreciate you being open and honest
Yeah.
about your diagnosis, about your, surprise at that, but yet you're, willing to let God use you as He wills. He's done that work in you to bring you to this place, and we
Yeah.
have to know that this isn't an accident. It's not outside of God's sovereignty. He knows exactly what is going on. He's given you a vision, He's given me a vision. He's brought us together. He's put the call on people's hearts to serve at people who need special care. And so I feel privileged, Matt, to know that I'm walking in this season with you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. And like you said, you never give up, right? You're gonna have ups and downs, but just don't give up. Don't give up on your story. We all have a story. Don't give up on your story. Whatever your story ends up being, don't give up. That's it.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.